There's people that think that the Fed is actually saving us.
I realize that, but you know what? You got to think of the Federal Reserve as cancer. And if you get rid of cancer, do you replace it with something? The Federal Reserve is destroying our economy, destroying our dollar, just like cancer destroys our body. And you just get rid of it and you replace it with nothing. It's just like cancer. Get rid of it and replace it with nothing.
So you would go back to pre-1913 type status, or?
You know, they'd like us to think that that's what's going to happen. We're going to go back to before. But you know what? There's a time before 1913 where the people were prospering. People could pay their taxes with hemp bushels. Today, we are not even allowed to grow hemp, which is food, clothing, housing, and you used to pay your taxes. It was money in a way. You could pay your taxes with hemp because it was such an amazing product that the government needed it. So yeah, I'd like to go back before 1913 where I could pay my taxes with a bushel of hemp.
Me too. That sounds cool, actually.
Right? You know, milk doesn't really cost $3 a gallon, okay? It's just because of the inflation added, which is a backdoor tax, which is what the Federal Reserve creates, is why we're spending $3 on a gallon of milk that we were just spending 99 cents on 20 years ago. So my kids can't survive in that kind of economy. They're only in their early 20s. And if I don't, and my parents are in debt with mortgage debt up to their eyeballs, and if I don't do something about this, my generation's going to be taking care of everybody, you know? It's time for us to step up to the plate, help our parents, save our kids' future, and give everyone prosperity. Everyone but these elite bankers, you know? The people need a chance to prosper in this country, and the Federal Reserve's holding everyone down from that.
Voluntarily, your savings account. Your savings account is stolen.
Before you had to have income tax, we still had schools, we still had bridges and hospitals, we still had a government, we still had DC, we had a governor, we had state governments. We had all that before 1913, but we didn't have a federal income tax because the federal income tax pays for the interest that our government borrows from the Federal Reserve.
Which seems totally unconstitutional when you think about it. Yeah.
But they got a bill passed which amended the Constitution. So it is technically constitutional. But we've had other constitutional federal banks. They were called central banks. Back then we had two of them. They didn't last 20 years, both of them, because the people got smart. For some reason, in 1933, the people were not able to register that the crash was because of this central bank they built back in 1913, where the last two central banks were abolished after 20 years. For some reason, this one wasn't. It's made it to 100 years. But now the Federal Reserve note is pretty much worthless. It takes more and more Federal Reserve notes to buy a gallon of milk, a carton of eggs.
So it is a false flag. They created the problem and tried to give the Federal Reserve as the answer to our problem.
Exactly. It is a false flag, and they want the people through the media convinced that the Federal Reserve's saving us. Ben Bernanke gets on TV and he says, oh, I'm not going to raise interest rates. Well, that's ripping off my parents. They've saved all this money for their retirement, and now they're not making anything off the money. It's hurting them financially. So he's literally just stripping our parents of all their retirement.
Yeah, it seems strange that the dollar was worth $1 back before 1913, and now the dollar is probably worth about a penny.
Right.
Maybe.
A few cents.
A few cents.
That's why. That's right. That's how, because of the printing. You know, they printed up 800 billion in 2008 to be spread out a couple of years. Well, this year they're printing 1 trillion,
Wow.
just this year alone. And what that's going to create, the hyperinflation. Do you think we see high prices now? In 3 years from now, you will see prices you have never seen before. I don't know if you've seen Silver Circle, but it's an amazing movie. It's going around right now, and those people in that movie, it's 1919, they're paying $900 for a glass of beer or 2 silver circles. So 900 Federal Reserve notes or just 2 ounces of silver.
Big difference there.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to tell the people, how they can get involved, what they should do?
You
Why
know
they-
what? I know it seems like it doesn't help, but it really does help. It's why we've gotten as far as we've gotten, and that is call your senator, call your congressman, demand a full and complete audit of the Federal Reserve. We must continue to go to their meetings, to write to them, to call them and demand this, because if they pass that bill, then we can get the answers. And they're there to represent us. Remind them of that.
If people want to get involved, where can they contact you at? Yeah.
Tara and the Fed at Facebook.com and Tara and the Fed at Twitter. And Tara and the Fed at gmail.com.
Do you think you'll ever get to the point where if we don't see any progress that you'll just give up?
No, if the good guys give up, the bad guys take over.
Thank you very much.